Tribal politics to rear its ugly face in the country again. The head of state, who together with his deputy had attended a prayer meeting at Obai, the Akurino sect, said it is wrong for any individual to try and reintroduce tribal politics, knowing very well the negative effects it had on the country. Now, Ruto as well has, or rather, let's listen into that.
Nataka niwaambie watu wa Nakuru. Nyinyi watu wa Nakuru tunawapenda sana kwa sababu nyinyi ni watu ambao mumetuanzishia kuunganisha taifa letu la Kenya. Mimi nilikuja hapa na Mheshimiwa Uhuru Kenyatta 2013 wakati Kenya hii ilikuwa na changamoto kubwa, na tukawaambia ya kwamba tunataka kuondoa kisirani na mashetani ya ukabila kutoka kwa siasa ya Kenya. Kwa sababu Nakuru ilisimama imara, Kenya ikasimama imara. Na tukaondoa kabisa siasa ya chuki, siasa ya ukabila, siasa ya kutenganisha watu katika taifa letu la Kenya. Na mimi nataka niwahakikishie kama rais, hiyo siasa haitarudi tena katika taifa letu la Kenya. This is truly a blessed country. This is truly a God-fearing nation. And we are truly a great people. Mimi nawauliza kwa unyenyekevu na kwa heshima kubwa, sisi wote tuliopata nafasi ya uongozi, jameni, ndugu zangu, marafiki zangu, tuungane, tushirikiane, tufanye kazi pamoja, tusitenganishe wananchi, tusiwabague, tuwaunganishe, ndio Kenya iweze kusonga mbele.
Now, the deputy president, who was in attendance, defended himself against claims that he was preaching tribal politics and said he was simply trying to unite the country from the grassroots level. Other leaders in attendance called on the leaders to stop tearing into each other and urged the head of state to address the divisions.
Your Excellency, in your administration, I am on record as a great peacemaker and a man who looks for unity. When there was a problem in Kericho County, Kericho is not in Mount Kenya, MCAs were fighting. Work could not go on. Nikawaita, nikawaketisha chini, tukazikisana, tukaweka amani. Kukakuwa na problem pale Kiambu County between the governor and the MCAs. Nikawatafuta rais, nikakwambia, nikawaketisha chini, governor and MCAs are working together. I'm still working on disunity between the governor and the MPs, ninaendelea pole pole. Kukakuwa na shida pale Meru between the governor and the MCAs and the MPs. Nikawaita, nikawaleta pamoja. Baada ya mwaka moja wakakosana tena. Tukiwa na wewe rais, tumeita jury jeke, tunajaribu kuleta amani Meru. Hapa Nakuru, huyu governor, huyu mtoto ya Keheka Kimani rafiki yangu, walikuwa na maneno na Tavida Karaja, nikawaita, nikawaketisha chini, tukaweka amani. Nakuru inasonga. Because any disunity in any small area will affect the unity of the country. I agree, and I have heard my brother Moses Kuria say, asking the Wakorino church to be united. That is true, because they have unique issues to do with Wakorino. But the unity of the Wakorino does not mean they are uniting against the Catholic Church or against the PCA Church. It's because they have unique challenges ya Wakorino. The unity we call for is not against anybody. It's unity of purpose, so that people have unique challenges and peculiar interests that are specific to themselves.
The divisions in Mount Kenya politics played out as Kikuyu Member of Parliament Kimani Ichung'wah appeared to accuse Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua of seeking to manipulate President William Ruto using the one man, one vote, one shilling campaign. Ichung'wah claims the push for the one man, one shilling is based on selfish ambition, and that if the Deputy President was interested in implementing the same, it would only take 2 weeks. Now, Shungwa says he will not allow the DP to intimidate him and his team, and he insisted that he had come to the Mount region to preach what the Deputy President had dared him to say in the Mount Kenya region, insisting he was only preaching politics of unity.
Umoja wa nchi yetu ndio muhimu zaidi ya mambo mengine yoyote, na hatuwezi kurudi kwa siasa za ukabila, na hatutakubali, mimi nikiwa mzaliwa wa Mlima Kenya, turudishe watu wetu kwa siasa za migawanyiko ya maeneo na ukabila. Na sababu hayo ndio tumekuwa tukisema huko nje, na tunaambiwa tuje tusemee hapa. Mimi nataka niseme Bishop, vile unanijua na mimi wa Kenya wananijua, mambo ya kuuziwa uoga na vitisho, mimi hayo Mwenyezi Mungu alinikomboa. Niliuliza juzi nikiwa Rift Valley, mimi nikiwa kiongozi wa wengi, huyu senator mimi ni kiongozi wake, Washira mbunge wenyu Jane mimi ni kiongozi wao bunge. Siwezi hata dakika moja kuwaonyesha madharau ama ni watusi ama niwaambie ni lazima wanifuate cha nguvu. Kitu nitafanya ni kuwaonyesha uongozi ili wanifuate. And that is all we have asked of our leaders. The President, the Deputy President, we have been telling them, mentor us as young leaders. Don't fight us. Don't demean us. Don't insult us. Mentor us to become better leaders tomorrow for the sake of Kenya. Tuache kurudi kwa siasa za ukabila. Tuache kuchochea wananchi tukijitafutia makuu, munasikia tukitishwa. Mimi sitatishwa na mtu kwenda kuambia watu wa Kameme wanitukane. Nimewaambia hata kesho asubuhi waniamkie. I will continue to tell you the truth as it is.
Elsewhere, other leaders, most of who were at the same function where the President and the Deputy President were in attendance, called on the party leadership to address the divisions in the appearance of the party. Let's listen in to Irungu Kangata.
Na Your Excellency, saa ingine kukiwa na moshi pahali na moto pahali, hata ukifunikia moshi itaonekana tu. Kwa hiyo vizuri saa ingine kwa badala ya kunyamazia hiyo moshi, ukisema hiyo moto itachoma, ni vizuri kujaribu kuizima. Hiyo maneno Kangata umesikia akisema ya one man, one vote, one shilling, na ingine 1 kilometer, ni maneno ambayo iko na changamoto kubwa kwa sababu every county is not the same. Mimi niko county ya Tharaka Nithi. Last time hiyo proposal ilikuwa inaletwa Senate, tukiongea mambo ya Mount Kenya vile watabahitika kwa sababu ya one man one shilling, ya Tharaka Nithi ilikuwa inashuka. Kwa hivyo wakati wa kupigania hiyo, mimi nilikuwa napigania na watu wa Eastern ama kule Northeastern, kwa sababu hapo ndio tunaguzwa. But with the wisdom of the leaders, it is possible to have a formula that can equalize everybody, ambaye inaweza tumika kuhakikisha Mkenya yote mdogo na mkubwa atafaidika kitumia hiyo formula. Si lazima tukue na moja ambaye itafinya wengine na inue wengine.
Excellencies, sisi ni watoto wenyu sisi wote. You are our father and our mother. And Your Excellencies, we walk behind you and we learn a lot from you. We look up to you and we know that you are leading our country well. But Your Excellencies, now we must come together as a house, as a government. Because a house divided cannot stand. Na sisi kama people from Nakuru County, in this county, Your Excellencies, we host Kenyans from every part of this country.
Sisi kama viongozi tulichaguliwa na maombi na tutadumisha hii serikali kwa maombi, si kwa maneno na kutupiana mishale.
Sisi hatutaki kuona watu ambao wanataka kuleta ugomvi katika hii serikali. Hatutaki kuona mkiwa na kukiwa na matusi yoyote ama kukiwa na matusi kama huko bunge. Hatutaki kuona kukiwa na ugomvi wowote. Tafadhalini tunawaomba tukiwa hapa na ile maombi ambayo tumeombewa.
We want a smooth term these remaining 3 years with our president, our deputy president, all elected leaders and all the people of Kenya. We want us to proceed together. So I won't go beyond that, but I want you to know, as a plea from Nakuru, especially Nakuru, passionately from Nakuru, we cannot, we do not want, and we do not really think it is of any value to have a divided country.
Now, we'll be having that discussion as well a little bit more on the newspaper as part of what has made it to the headlines. However, residents of Uyombo, Matsangoni in Kilifi County want the Independent Policing Oversight Authority to intervene on the matter where they claim they were brutally manhandled by police officers. The residents who are opposed to the construction of a nuclear plant in the area had picked up an altercation with laborers who were clearing bushes at Uyombo Girls Secondary School in preparation for the construction of the facility. They say when riot police intervened, 23 people were seriously injured, accompanied by human and environmental rights organizations. The residents are demanding action.
Ni makosa kwa watu wanupea kuja pale na polisi. Manake site handing over ambayo ilikuwa inataka kufanywa siku ile ya Jumatatu ya tarehe 20 walikuja na polisi. Kama kweli watu wamekubali, mbona uende na polisi kuhand over site?
Askari wawili wakaja wakaniandama. Walinipiga, nashukuru walinipiga. Lakini Mungu alinisaidia. Walikuwa wataka kunipasua kichwa, but mimi nami nashukuru venye ninavyojua mimi.
Sasa venye tunaongea hivyo, maskari wengine wakasema acha tuite maskari waje ili tuwe wengi ndio tuweze kutoa hao watu. Maana tukiwatoa sisi peke yetu mweza tupokonya muaue. Tukasema ni sawa. Tukasimama kando hivi. Tunasubiri hao askari waingie, walipoingia walikuwa wameongozwa na chifu wetu. Sasa zenye tumesimama sisi tunasubiri hao watu watolewe, mara tunasikia kifirimbi kinalia. Prrr. Alafu mimi nilikuwa na mtoto mgongoni. Sasa hapo firimbi ilipopigwa, sasa ni watu kupigwa.
Watu wa Nupea wanalazimisha bila public participation, wanalazimisha kufanya mradi. Nafikiri ni muhimu watu wahusishwe kwanza. Wahusishwe halafu waamue. Na tunasema public participation haimaanishi kwamba mtu amekubali.
Pale Uyombo kuna Watamu Marine Park na kuna Arabuko Sokoke. Pale ni UNESCO Biosphere ambayo inaonyesha kuwa hiyo mahali ina rutuba ya hali ya juu sana na ya kipekee Kenya hii. Kwa hivyo tutachukuaje sehemu kama ile tuende tuweke pale nuclear ambayo tunajua athari zake. Mumeona Japan mpaka leo wameshindwa kudhibiti ile nuclear spill ambayo ilifanyika katika nuclear power plant yao.
Watu walipigwa, watoto waliathirika, hakuna kwenda skuli, kina mama wazee kama huyu mamangu, mnamuona huyu mama alipigwa sana. Kama sisi kufika haraka wangemuua. Kuna polisi mmoja alimkanyaga na shingo na kupiga mayowe ndio akachiliwa.
All right, so allow us to take a quick breather, but when we come back, we'll be taking a look at the newspapers and an in-depth conversation around Ruto Gachagua as well as the Finance Bill 2024, which, you know, the bill funds the budget for 2024-2025, and so we'll be taking a look at just what are some of the key areas that a lot of Kenyans have been vocal about, even as the public participation enter the final stretches today. And that conversation returns in a bit. Stay with us. We'll be back shortly. All right, the newspapers this morning, Monday, Standard, MPs walk a tightrope on taxes and budget. MPs walk a tightrope on taxes and on budget. Moment of reckoning, how to strike a balance between taxing an already overtaxed taxpayer and raising the necessary revenue to meet the growing needs of the government is the daunting task that Parliament faces this week, as the budget is read and finance bill put before the public. And so what Finance Committee Chair Kuria Kimani says, and I quote on top of the page of the Standard, "I want to assure Kenyans that we will make the best decisions. We do not want to export our jobs. We need to align our policies, especially manufacturing and particularly pharmaceuticals." And that is perhaps the highlight of this week. which is the second week of June 2024, where normally actually every June, about the second or third week, the finance bill is read in Parliament by the Cabinet Secretary for National Treasury. And in that case now, for this particular regime, the second budget that will be on their hands is the Finance Bill 2024-2025. And that is a story that you can find on page 6 of the Standard newspaper this morning, that speaks of Parliament's daunting task to offer a balanced finance bill. One, how do they cushion taxpayers from the rising cost of living, and at the same time as well boost the government in terms of collecting revenue and ensuring that there's also a balance of books from development to the current expenditure to paying debts as well. So eco levy is one of the issues that has been raised by manufacturers who argue that it will impact the prices of basic commodities like bread due to the increase in the cost of packaging. Businesses fired warning shots at the government, including I'd say, business moguls or companies like Safaricom, who fired warning shots at the government, predicting job losses and closure of farms in favor of other markets in the East African community should the bill be passed as it is. So, what is in the bill? That must be the key question. Now, let me give you some of the details of just what is in this particular bill, Finance Bill of 2024-2025. Now, the budget itself is at 3.9 trillion shillings, but the Budget and Appropriations Committee Chairperson Ndindi Nyoro had hinted that the bill is likely to get to the 4 trillion shillings mark, but that will be confirmed eventually when the CS for Treasury reads this particular bill at the National Assembly, but it is estimated to be at about 3.98 trillion shillings. Now, the budget deficit, which was at 709 billion shillings, at 709 billion shillings, but with the rise of or the key taxation policies that have been put in the budget, this is likely to be reduced to about 300 billion shillings, which perhaps is the end goal for this particular bill. How do they work their way around the debts that have been accrued by the country? Now, aside from that, the key 5 taxes that are normally in any bill, there's, on income tax, VAT Act or VAT tax, excise duty, you've got miscellaneous fees and levies, as well as Tax Procedures Act. So those are the 5 main tax laws in the country. There's the excise duty, there's the VAT, there's the import, rather the income duty or the income tax. You also have the miscellaneous fees and levies, as well as the Tax Procedures Act. Now, it is in this phase that you're looking at various taxation policies that have been put up, or the question of what exactly is being taxed. Now, we've got the controversial car tax or motor vehicle tax, which is at 2.5% of the car value, and this should range between 5,000 shillings and 100,000 shillings. And so that has been one of the most controversial tax, particularly in that Finance Bill 2024-2025, the car tax, which is 2.5% of the car value. And we saw KRA who have really tried to explain what the car tax is, contrary to what a pay-as-you-earn is, because if you're going to pay for a car, which is basically, you've got an insurance you're paying for, you're fueling your car, and the fuel in itself has about 9 taxes in it. The moment you've paid 2,000 shillings to fuel your car, we've also paid for a couple of taxes, including the road maintenance levy, you've got the fuel levy as well. And so it was a question of what exactly is this car tax, aside from it, aside from you paying for insurance, and aside from you paying for an import duty if you've imported your car, aside from you paying for a fuel levy, road maintenance levy when you fuel for your car. And that has been all the things that perhaps KRA have not clearly been able to outline what it is. But what they say is that if a person has got a car, then they've got a source of income. And so what they're taxing is that source of income, which now begs the question, what is pay as you earn? It's normally an income tax. They're taxing what you're recording as an income. on a monthly basis. And so that is one of the controversial things that we've seen a lot of insurance companies who have come out to say, that is not the proper way to go, because it is likely to see a reduction in the number of people that do take insurance, or people to actually opt for cheaper insurance just so they can afford to pay for insurance, pay for a car tax, at the same time fuel their car. And it's also a question of what about those who have got more than one vehicle. There are persons that have got 3 cars, into which they drive the 3 cars. So it's a question of also what now happens to these particular individuals, but also what has also been particularly controversial for this particular finance bill of 2024 has been on the M-Pesa and money transfer charges, which will see a 10 to 20% rise. That is on M-Pesa and money transfer charges, basically mobile money transactions. Sending money is likely to be a bit costlier. Withdrawing money is also likely to be a bit costly. And so M-Pesa and money transfer charges, if you're sending your money from your M-Pesa, that is mobile money wallet, to your bank account, or similarly vice versa, then that is likely to be affected. So that has also been at the center of debate, which will see a 10 to 20% rise from the initial charges that are on now. But aside from that, we've also got bread, which is likely to rise by 10 shillings. That is after the VAT has been placed on the cost of bread, which is likely to rise by 10 shillings. You also have got alcohol, also for beer. Alcohol, particularly beer, which will see a rise of 71 shillings to 47 shillings. Alcohol also for the whiskey and vodka will also be affected. We've also got betting and gaming and lottery stakes, credit and debit cards, that is on forex transactions, as well as processing of checks. The cost is also to rise by 16%. Aside from that, what may affect you as much is also on the edible oils, after a recommendation to have a 25% excise duty on edible oils, that is cooking oil basically that you use at home. So if this tax bill is passed just the way as it is, then you're likely to buy cooking oil at a much expensive price. Also plastic packaging, 10%. Ask yourself how much of the things that you use at home are packaged by plastic. When you get that answer, then you look at just the various things that will be affected. Plastic, in itself, actually, cooking oil is, packaged with a plastic. And so, there's an excise duty on the oil, and there's also a 10% excise duty on the plastic itself. So we're looking at 35% increase of just what you use at home to cook as cooking oil. There's also an introduction of tax on advertising on internet, on social media. And so if you are a business person who advertises your business or your goods and services online, that is either through the internet, particularly social media, then there's an introduction on tax on advertising. And so also businesses are likely to be affected. Others that other taxes that have also been proposed include import declaration fees to be increased to 3%. There's withholding tax introduced on supply of goods to public entities. Allowable pension deduction raised to 30,000 shillings from 20,000 persons that are paying for pension. The allowable pension deductions has been raised from 20,000 to 30,000 shillings per month. And there's also the digital service tax, which is transformed to a withholding tax and will apply to both residents and non-residents. And this is where also there's a big issue because of service providers, particularly car rides like Uber and Bolt. If there's an introduction of a digital service tax to also non-residents, and at the same time there's also a couple of other taxes that companies like Uber and Bolt and more companies which are foreign companies have also set up in Kenya, and there's a digital service tax that is also going to be accrued there, then ask yourself the ripple effect that may have, because if this company withdraws its services from Kenya or its company from Kenya, how many people are likely to be affected? And so those are some of the key elements of this particular finance bill of 2024 that has raised a lot of eyebrows, not just from the common wananchi, but also stakeholders, experts, business people as well, who will be affected immensely if this budget is passed as it is. And so where will be the accountability? Should it be the members of parliament or people that make, because at the center of people that make this budget, that is particularly the Budget and Appropriations Committee, as well as the Finance Committee of the National Assembly. And so Senate have called for a special session to have a conversation around this particular bill. But one thing that we've been able to pick out as well from the activists as well as the senator, that is, his name has disappeared, but I'll remember it and tell you. But he said, you know, the Senate really does not go through the Finance Bill 2024, discuss it in Parliament. That is at the Senate, because the bill really, Okiya Omtata, that is the name, Senator Okiya Omtata, who also doubles up as an activist, who really pointed out that this particular bill, they're fighting for the finance bills to go through Parliament and go through the Senate as well, or the National Assembly and the Senate as well. But what we have now is that the bill normally will just go through the National Assembly. And so that is one of the things that we'll be looking forward to this week on Thursday. Crucial stages, actually the final stretch, if you call it, of this Finance Bill 2024. The reading is set for Thursday. We'll be giving that wall-to-wall coverage right here with the experts and analysts, just to understand, you know, how much does this affect you in your household, and what are some of the things that you need to know. But the important process that you also need to be part of is on the public participation. Because, you know, your views need to be heard on this bill. Do you feel it's fit for you? Do you feel it is not for your business? etc. And so Parliament's daunting task to offer a balanced finance bill, and that is where really it bites. Because one, on the other hand, they're trying to look at you and your needs. On the other hand as well, the siders flip, while they flip the coin, on the other side, they also look at what the country needs. We need to pay debts. We need to, you know, pay salaries. The country also needs to, you know, develop and build roads and build hospitals and offer various services. And so daunting task it is indeed. So that is on the headline on the Standard newspaper this morning concerning the budget of 2024. Now it reads, Parliament may be forced to preview some of the proposed or proposals in the Finance Bill 2024 after lengthy stakeholder engagements carried out by the Finance and National Planning Committee. But I need to point out that it is not cast stone. Anything can happen at this stage. Some of these clauses, or at least recommendations, may be amended. And so what I've read may have changed or could change at the run-up to the budget reading, as it seeks to review and ensure that, you know, there's a public participation going on here. And so some of the conversations and recommendations are likely to be adopted in the bill. So it is not cast stone that what has been tabled or what has been gazetted as of now is what will pass. There's likely to be some amendments to some of these bills and tax acts that have been proposed. And so how to strike a balance between taxing and an already overtaxed taxpayer and the raising necessary revenue to meet the growing needs of the government is the daunting task that Parliament faces this week. So that is where we are at with the finance bill. But of course it goes through 4 critical stages. That is on the recommendations, the adoption, the execution, and the control. Those are some of the 4 key stages. Actually, it's the formation, the recommendation, or at least the adoption of this particular bill, the execution itself, as well as the control. And so where the biggest brunt really lies is on the execution of this particular bill, because year in, year out, we are looking at debts, we're looking at gaps, we're looking at KRA not meeting its target, we're looking at development not really happening, money that was meant to go to a certain sector as well not happening. And so we'll continue to have these conversations just around the Finance Bill 2024. But also, top of the page on the Standard, beneficiaries of the 1 man 1 shilling talk. Beneficiaries of the 1 man 1 shilling talk, the raging debate on resource sharing has missed a big component, that of the generation, making it either a red herring to divert attention from the finance bill or a Trojan horse on the same. 1 man 1 vote 1 shilling debate continues. Now, the 1 man 1 vote 1 shilling pushes that for regions that are more popular and for regions we know which record higher number of residents to get higher resources, contrary to a revenue sharing formula that is of the idea that, let us have equal money being distributed across the counties. We've got 47 counties. If you're going to give this county 390 billion shillings, do the math, 390 billion shillings divided by 47 counties, how much should each county get? And so one man, one shilling talk could be diversion trick from real issues. It is not beyond the wit of man to suspect that the timing of this debate is not a coincidence. The reaction to it has been just as noisy as the proposition. And then the Standard says, you know, just when we thought our noisy politics was settling down, the one man, one vote, one shilling mantra has raised its head once again. Now, loudly championed by the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua and recently supported by the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga and the Limuru 3 Conference of the Future of Mount Kenya, this mantra returns us to the thorny national subject of resource distribution, or more prosaically, resource sharing. Some are even linking it to the shambolic BBI constitutional remaking initiative overturned by our courts at all levels. The reaction to the one man, one vote, one shilling has really been noisy, and Mount Kenya leaders opposing the idea suggest this is village politics, forgetting that Kenya is the sum total of its villages. So support on one hand for the one man, one vote, one shilling, you know. On the other hand, it's the bashing of this particular sharing formula, to which some of the governors have also voiced and said, you know what, it doesn't really enhance national unity. It also does not really ensure that every Kenyan gets the services at equal levels. So one man, one vote, one shilling, divisive talk. Is it a trick for diversion from the real issues concerning the finance bill, particularly after within this week? Well, it's something that we can wait and see. Also, the COG control of, that is the chairperson of the Council of Governors, puts control of budget to task over approval delays, that is approval of funds to the counties. Year in, year out, we've seen counties decry of just not getting the enough funds that are needed for development. So that is on the headline on the Standard. MPs walk a tightrope on taxes, budget, beneficiaries of the one man, one shilling talk. Also, your child could be exposed to serious risks in school. How so? Well, I mean, you know, ministries marks out new threats to learners' safety, including climate change, mental health concerns, and cybercrime, which are some of the emerging issues that require urgent attention. Aside from that, there's alcohol, there's drug and substance abuse, there's HIV, there's insecurity, there's extremism, and radicalization are also being fingered. So those are some of the threats that your child is likely to go through in school. So those are the headlines on the Standard newspaper. Now let's switch to the, I'll begin with the Daily Nation. Respect Gachagua, Ruto censures members of parliament. Respect Gachagua, Ruto censures members of parliament. That is on the Daily Nation. Now, President William Ruto, who yesterday revealed why he settled on his deputy Rigathi Gachagua as his running mate ahead of the 2022 elections, has asked young and ambitious UDA politicians from Mount Kenya and his Rift Valley backyard to respect the deputy president in the wake of wrangling in the ruling party. Now, that is a story that is on page 4 and page 5. Is this the third week where we're having a conversation around Ruto and Gachagua, and, you know, just what this new, you know, friendship turned four issue that has been at the center of it? So Ruto calls troops to order on rising wrangles in UDA party. Insiders say the perceived tiff between the president and his deputy was not addressed. Now, President William Ruto has been at the center of a question on is the relationship between the head of state and the second in command falling apart. Ruto, the UDA party leader, is reported to have addressed a myriad of issues affecting the party, including petitions calling for the removal of the party's officials and the National Elections Board members. According to insiders at the National Executive Council, meeting at State House in Nairobi on Saturday, Now, even though the perceived tiff between Ruto and his deputy Gachagua was not addressed, the president gave the leaders a dressing down, warning them against using his name in their political maneuvers. The president also directed that a national steering committee meeting be convened to help resolve challenges facing the secretariat, and 3 members of the staff are expected to appear before the committee. This comes at a time when politicians and top government officials have joined in the public exchanges, issuing conflicting public statements. It is reported that various WhatsApp groups are also turned explosive, with the president and the DP sitting as silent listeners. So that is where we are at with the head of state and his deputy. And for the past 2 weeks, there has been talk of brewing tension between the 2 leaders, perhaps one concerning the 1 man, 1 vote, 1 shilling, debate, which is being championed by Deputy President. And on the other hand, the head of state has declared his stand and says, that does not really promote equity and equality in the country. And so that could be at the center of it, amongst other underlying issues, including the National Dialogue Committee report, or at least the NADCO in itself, to which Gachagua had expressed his reservations concerning that particular report. So Ruto at the same time has had to defend himself on why he chose Gachagua as the deputy president in the run-up to the 2022 elections. And he says he felt Gachagua is elderly and could help serve Kenyans better. He told young leaders to respect the deputy, and Ruto for the first time revealed why he settled on Gachagua as his running mate in the 2022 elections. Ruto said that when he was picking a running mate, a youthful leader from Mount Kenya region was proposed by a section of Kenya Kwanza leaders, but he settled on Gachagua because he felt he is elderly and could help serve Kenyans better. Now, to be exact with what he said, in English, he had spoken it in Kiswahili, but translated to English, he said, those leaders who are here, you remember before we went to the August polls, I sat down with MPs and asked them to propose names of the persons they want to be my running mate. These MPs gave me names of youthful leaders they said are hardworking and dependable. However, I decided to pick Gachagua because he's my age mate with whom I can push this country ahead. The president also asked young and ambitious leaders from his UDA party to respect Gachagua. And that was spoken during the meeting with the Akorino that was yesterday in Nakuru County. Also top of the page, when MPs go trigger happy, there has been a surge in cases where lawmakers mishandle or misuse their licensed firearms, leading to fatalities or injuries, attracting the attention of investigators and even leading to court battles. But the question is, has there been any sentencing or at least prosecution for that matter? A house of guns when MPs go trigger happy. Some of the leaders at the center of gun scandals include Gabriel Kagombe, who's got an ongoing case in court. And Kagombe on May 17th, when chaos erupted over a market involving 4 members of parliament in Thika town, gunshots were fired, and when calm was restored, a man had been shot dead and another hurt. Gatundu South MP Gabriel Gakombe was implicated in the shooting and was arrested. On Friday, Machakos judge Francis Olel freed him on a 2 million shillings bond after pleading not guilty. One other lawmaker at the center is Paul Ongili, who's the Embakasi East Member of Parliament. Paul Ongili is popularly known as Babu Owino, and the MP was arrested in 2020 after being accused of shooting DJ Evolved at an entertainment joint in Nairobi. The lawmaker and his aide rushed the DJ to Nairobi Hospital after the incident. The MP was seized and detained at the Kilimani police station. The youthful leader paid the DJ's hospital bills, and in August 2023, Owino was left off the hook after it was agreed of an out-of-court settlement. At the same time, the trial magistrate Bernard Ochoi ruled that the prosecution failed to adduce enough evidence against the lawmaker. One other member of parliament is Didmas Baraza, who is the Kimilili member of parliament. On August 9th, 2022, Didmas Baraza was arrested in connection with a shooting incident which claimed the life of one Brian Haemba. The deceased was an aide of Brian Olunga, Baraza's main opponent in the 2022 elections. Haemba was waiting to join university. Now, Baraza went into hiding. The then DPP Nordin Haji, who is now the National Intelligence Service boss, ordered for his arrest. The lawmaker was smoked out of his hiding place and recorded a statement with police. In July 2023, the court acquitted Barasa. We also have Nakuru West Member of Parliament Samuel Arama, who's also at the center of gun scandal. And in July 19th, 2023, the Nakuru West MP was put on the spot for brandishing his firearm to scare away protesters. The MP, who was captured in a video that made rounds on social media, was holding a pistol as he ordered protesters to disperse immediately. The ODM lawmaker was against anti-government protests that had been called by his then party leader, Raila Odinga. His actions were condemned. Amongst other leaders include Sivana Sosoro, the South Mogirango Member of Parliament, David Sankok, the East Africa Legislative Assembly, and Ben Joroge, who's a former nominated senator. So, gun scandals, members of Parliament at the center of it, and more often than not, unfortunately, fatality would always be at the center of it, with people that have died due to the gun issue. So, that is the headline on the Daily Nation. Then finally, to the Star newspaper, I'll link the headline to what was on top of the page of the Daily Nation, which spoke about Gachagua arrives 1 hour late at Ruto meeting. Gachagua arrives 1 hour late at Ruto meet. Ruto warned about ethnic mobilization in what was seen as broadside against Rigathi Gachagua. And you know, there's a discord, and the standard protocol has been that the DP receives president at a function. However, on Sunday, it happened that he was 1 hour late, and he said, one, there was an issue to do with the weather, and two, well, he pointed to logistical nightmares, perhaps. And so that is a story that is on page 6 of the Star newspaper this morning, where Rigathi an hour late at Ruto function as president warns against tribalism. Signs of discord between the head of state and Gachagua are increasingly becoming apparent after the DP yesterday arrived an hour late at a presidential function. At the same event, Ruto warned about ethnic mobilization. Now, the standard protocol has been that the DP will always receive the head of state at a function attended by both. However, Gachagua arrived almost 1 hour late at the Akorino church service in Nakuru County. Ruto and his entourage had already settled in church and were being prayed for by the Akorino church leaders when Gachagua arrived. He was ushered to join the president, and the DP has lately been missing in action in many of Ruto's activities, including when he's expected to receive the president at the airport from foreign trips. Now, when he rose to address the congregation, Gachagua said he had problems with his transportation arrangements. Now, this is what he said in Kiswahili, yeah? Nilikuwa na matatizo with my transport arrangements, halafu ikaingia mambo ya hewa, nikachelewa kutoka, nikakwama pale kati ya Longonot na Naivasha, karibu 2 hours, ndio nikafika hapa. So that is exactly what the DP said. Now, it is not clear whether the DP flew to Naivasha or he was driven. However, Gachagua declared himself the most disciplined person in the Ruto administration, saying he was not late intentionally. Now, this further fuels speculation of just, you know, is he being denied state accorded transport because of the stature of his office as the deputy president and the second in command. This is one of the things that the state has to fulfill. Now, this is not the first time. The Madaraka Day celebrations, it is alleged that he also had to, you know, fly a commercial plane, contrary to flying a military plane. And also during the tree planting, you know, session earlier on in the year. And he, was it in the year or last year when he was sent to Uasin Gishu County, but he also could not fly military chopper. So Gachagua arrives 1 hour late at Ruto meet. Also, top of the page on the Star newspaper, concerns State House seeks to control recruiting of CEOs and varsity chiefs. State House seeks to control recruiting of CEOs and varsity chiefs. It's a question of, is it unconstitutional? Well, the Ruto administration wants the final say on leadership of state corporations, university, giving the president more powers. Now, the State House, through the head of public service, Felix Koskei, seeks to direct control over the hiring of CEOs of all state corporations to the head of state. The Public Service Commission has strongly opposed these guidelines, joining the Law Society of Kenya that has already gone to court to have the directive quashed. In the headlines, a copy which the Star has obtained, the President's office will decide on who becomes CEO. This will also apply to the recruitment of university vice-chancellors. Now, it is feared the move could entrench the culture of a political reward system whereby politically favored candidates would be chosen. So that is also one of the headlines on the Star newspaper. In addition to that, how harsh TB stigma is killing thousands of patients through medication default, as well as Ngilu, who says we want Raila to declare Kalonzo as Azimio's flag bearer for the 2027 polls. So those are the headlines on the newspapers this morning. The Star, Gachagua arrives 1 hour late at Ruto meet. The Daily Nation speaks of respect. Gachagua, Ruto censures MPs, as the Standard speaks of MPs walk a tightrope on taxes and on the budget. Those are your headlines this morning. All right, so that is all we had planned out for you this morning. Apologies, our guest this morning couldn't make it. That is Muito Murithi, who's a political commentator and analyst, but we do hope that we will get him